Smile from Black from TV, talking to Eric Bana regarding the sequel to The Dry. How's it going?
I'm well, mate. How are you?
Good, good. Obviously, you're coming back to playing the character Aaron. Are you more uh, in tune to his personality than the first time you played him?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I've never actually had the opportunity to follow up a character before and do him a second time. So it was a weird feeling to be able to step into another film where you already knew the guy and had done all the background work. And so it was a case of, okay, well, what new piece of information? Where can we go with this guy in the second film? So no, it was really a really exciting opportunity.
Is there anything different you wanted to do that's outside, that's different from the book? I'm sure people who are going to come into it, those who have read the book and trying to see the same traits, or is there something differently you have to do cinematically?
Yeah, we tried to apply the same rigor that we did with the first film with the dry, and that want to be really faithful to the source material. Jane Harper does a great job of incorporating landscape and location into her stories as a central character. And so we wanted to do the best cinematic big screen version of them that we possibly could. But she's also really understanding of the fact that that means we have to make some changes, not to the fundamentals of the storyline, but in terms of what's the best thing for an adaptation in that respect. She's very open, and Rob works really hard on the screenplay in that respect, and she's really supportive.
This time we're getting Aaron's personal background mixed in with the story that has a personal toe on him. Coming into this, uh, what are we getting? Obviously, not to spoil anything, it's from Aaron's personal history that's going to help him move on, solving this case with not just this case, but with his own background.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing is, I guess the element that we introduced from his backstory may actually not help him solve the case. It may be a hindrance to him being able to solve the case. There's a level of guilt and responsibility that he feels for his informant, Alice, played by Anna Torv, that comes from something that happened to him when he was a child. And it's great fun having those dual timelines, especially as an actor, because you're constantly toying with, well, how much does the audience already know about this person based on a flashback that we may have just come out of? But you're never really sure where those flashbacks are going to appear until we get into the edit and play with the order. So it's great to have that extra piece of information.
When you look at the background and you look at the setting of where it's at, how much did you have to do in terms of, working outside instead of just being in one corridor, but you're dealing with the woods and stuff like that? Do you ever go hiking in your early days or so?
Yeah, well, the these locations, fortunately for me, I'm really familiar with. I spend a lot of my spare time riding my motorcycles through the bush and so forth. And so both landscapes in both the dry and force of nature, I'm really familiar with the locations. And I love shooting outdoors. I hate filming in studios. So outdoor, natural light, day for day. I think there's a real creative energy that comes from the camera coming out of the box at the crack of dawn, knowing that it's going to go back in the box when the sun sets. I think there's a real energy that comes from that, and some creative choices that arise from that as well.
Should this movie do as well as the first one? And I don't know if there's a follow-up or so forth. Are you prone to come back and play the character again?
We never really considered making a second film when we made the first one.
Mhm.
And we're the same thing with this. We just wanted to make the best version we could, and we hadn't really thought too much about the third. We weren't even sure if she was writing a third. And then it turned out that she was whilst we were actually making the film. So she's now completed that book. It's called Exiles. It's a completely different setting. It's set in um, at a food festival in a wine growing region of Australia. I'm like, that sounds way too comfortable for us.
But just going back in general, you've been working a long time. What goes into saying yes to the projects you take?
I want to feel really passionate. I guess they're reflective of the kind of films I want to see as a movie lover. I'm really passionate about smaller film and independent cinema because it's where I came from. It's, adult dramas, I guess, where I do most of my work. So I'm always most interested in simple adult, fare. Um, but I'm always open to everything. I think it's really important to have an open mind when it comes to reading scripts and size of roles, types of roles, and genres, and it makes for an interesting career.
You know how I run into in the city? I live in New York. Bonnie Timmerman. I always run into her a lot of times, and I think back to what obviously what she did with the movies she's casted, including Black Hawk Down. And I always think about your character at the very end when he goes, "I got to go back because somebody's got to go back." Something to that. I'm paraphrasing it, but with the roles you've taken, you've done different genres. Is there a genre you haven't tackled? Because now you're taking this one is the detective genre in a way.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's something I don't think I've ever done a romantic comedy. I've done a romance film, The Time Traveler's Wife, but I've never really done a romantic comedy. That's not something that's come my way. Maybe never will. Yeah, I don't think about it too much. I just try and be open, and wait until I read something that I really fall in love with, that I feel really passionate about, and then my ego kicks in that I want to play that particular character. I want to feel like I can bring something to it. And you're looking for that sense of ownership. That's what really gets my juices going. If I really feel a sense of ownership for the character.
This movie's going to come out, and right now we're in a period where there's a glut of projects out there, whether it's in movies, cable, streamers. People have lots of options as what to see. What's going to get audience to come out and see this one, especially if they haven't seen the first one or if they've seen the first one?
Yeah, look, it's very deliberately a standalone film, so people don't have to have seen the first one to enjoy this. And we just feel really confident that people are like us. They like independent cinema. They like original material that's not generated from something that we've seen before, or that's a proprietary thing. So I'm really interested in seeing original stories as a film go, and we just assume other people think the same, and it's what Rob and I feel really passionate about. And in this case, we've got to make two really independent Australian films that hold up on the big screen, and we're really proud to share a piece of our country with the rest of the world.
Hey, if you can make a third one, I'm there for it. So congrats on this one. Congrats on the projects. Hopefully we'll talk down the road. Take care.
Absolutely. Thanks, buddy.
Wilson Morales from Black Film TV. Here we are. Hello, folks. How's it going?
Very good.
How are you?
Good to talk to you.
So Robert, coming back second time around, is there anything different you wanted to do, even though it's a whole new story, than what you did with the first film?
I wanted to take audiences into a different landscape, the Australian bush. I grew up in that world. I love that world. It's dangerous, it's tough, but it's so beautiful. I think when I read the book, I was like, wow, let's go on this adventure. And of course, Eric Bana and I loved the fact that there was this story of 5 women lost in the bush. It felt unique and different to the first film.
For you, Deborah, we haven't seen you on the screen. I know you've done television, but we haven't seen you on the screen in a minute. What led you to say yes to taking on this project?
What led me to do? Well, I love the fact that it was an ensemble female cast. I love the fact that Robert Connolly was directing. And it was just timely in my life that I was ready to get back to my creative life. I mean, obviously we compartmentalize things, and I had children that are grown now, so I could go back and play in front of the camera. And also, I saw The Dry One, and I loved it. So I loved Jane Harper's work. I wanted to work with these other actors. There were so many alluring factors that drew me into this. And Eric Bana is an old friend of mine, and I love and respect his work.
And that's all great. When you're adapting a book to screen, obviously not everything can be translated, And so for those who may have read the book, are we seeing exactly what's in the book, or was it a little challenge trying to recreate some scenes?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. Adapting for the screen, it's like, I always think cinema's like a haiku format. You need to distill it to the essence. You don't want to have an over verbose work. And often I think great classic books make for big epic miniseries, but a movie is something more distinctive. It's 100 minutes long. It's got to take an audience, got to grab them. So for me, a lot of it is about distilling the story to the elements. What are the key things you need, the key beats you need, and then pulling away the stuff that you don't need, and I think the imagery in cinema carries so much information that you can get away with that kind of distilled version, and it can work really well.
This story is like a whodunit, and you start wondering which of the ladies, could possibly the culprit. And you look at your character, Deborah, and you're like, it's not her. She's not that one note. You know, it's just like there's a little bit more to her story, you know.
But you want to keep him guessing. And I read the script, and the way it's written, it's very hard. I don't know how Robert did it as a director, because it jumps all over the place. And I had to question you a few times. Hang on, am I involved here? So it even kept me guessing.
You know, what did you do in terms of trying to play this character to not make it look so obvious that whether she is or isn't, you know, the culprit?
I don't come at it as an actor. You don't. That director comes at it that way, and the writer comes at it that way. As an actor, I have my through line, my agenda, where I want to go with her, and I love the fact that I want to represent a strong female leader who could navigate this terrain, you know, and work with the environment, and work with the actors, and work with the material. It was a great challenge.
Speaking about terrain, how was the location for you? You know, have you done hiking before? Or was this a whole new experience, you know, being out with the other ladies?
I've hiked up Fifth Avenue. That's my kind of hiking. I am not a hiker. And let me tell you, we were literally climbing mountains. It was extraordinary. The temperatures were cold. We had leeches dropping from the trees. I'd be walking up a hill, trees would be hitting me in the face. I mean, it was challenging. It was quite the challenge.
Robert, you didn't have them go through boot camp so they can get used to it?
No, I came straight from New York. That's not a boot camp.
I think you'd arrived 2 days after the Met Gala, and we had you in the middle of nowhere in pouring rain, and you never complained once.
No, I took off the top board and put a pair of jeans on, and off we went.
That's right. That's right. And look, I think it's a great part of cinema that you take audiences into worlds that they haven't been. You know, here's a film that takes audiences here in the US, across the planet, to the great Australian wilderness. And I think you need to ask the actors to do it too. And if the actors are willing, and they're willing to get in that world, then it has a veracity that audiences love. So no, I'm delighted that the actors went on that journey. But no, I treated them. I'm very nice on the surface, but beneath the surface, I ask a lot of these actors.
You know, I asked Eric, you know, we're in a world where there's a lot of product out there, whether it's in cinema, whether it's on streaming channels, network, you know, we have an abundance of what to watch. What's going to get an audience out there to see this? One, if they haven't seen the first film, if they read the book and they want to see it cinematically, you know, what's the sell of it? Especially when there's a lot of competition these days.
It's entertaining. It's entertaining, and it takes you on a journey. I think everyone wants to be taken on a journey. You speak, Robert. Sorry.
Robert, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Are you still there?
I think we've lost Robert.
Just got an internet issue.
But it's entertainment. I mean, yeah, there is a lot of competition. So you've got to grab people and take them on a ride.
I'm back. Sorry.
It's going to be fun. Do you want to ask Robert the question again?
The question, Robert, is, you know, what's the sell to audiences to see this movie when you have a competition out there of what's in cinemas and in streaming channels and on network?
Yeah, look, my favorite Australian filmmaker, Peter Weir, is a deeply humanist filmmaker, and I loved his films. Inspired me as a young filmmaker. And I think the sell, it's a detective mystery and it's a survival story, but that's not enough anymore. It has to touch the heart. It has to be moving. It has to put a microscope to the human condition. It has to make you fall in love with these characters, care about them. And that is my pitch to people. Here are some of Australia's greatest actors doing a very moving, it's thrilling. Yes, it's thrilling, and it is a mystery, and the audience can kind of solve it themselves if they'd like to. But for me, cinema is all about touching the heart. And so that's what I would hope, that people can come and have a real emotional journey watching the film.
Well said. I want to say congrats on this movie. Let's hope we can get more of her stories out there. Deborah, it's always good to see you. Let's see you back on screen again in more projects, and hopefully we'll talk down the road. Take care, folks.
Thanks, Thank you.
Thank you so much. Lovely to chat. See you.